friends, welcome back to Faith and Arrow Homestead. If you're new here, my name is Jaylee, and today we're going to talk about storing food. We've been talking a lot about preparedness on this channel lately. It was placed on my heart to discuss that topic, and we have been, and it's been great. But above all else, this is a homesteading channel. This is not going to become a preparedness channel. I did a little looking around on YouTube, and I know that there are channels that are devoted specifically to preparedness, and that's not what this is. I feel very strongly that this is a homesteading channel, and it's going to continue to be one. It has been one for almost 3 years now. However, this channel kind of ebbs and flows with the seasons, and what we talk about depends on what is happening in my life. I don't plan my videos or anything like that. I really do talk about what is prevalent in my life at the time. And I received the message from the Holy Spirit that I need to be focused on preparedness. I need to be beefing up my stores. I need to be stocking my pantry. I need to be focused on preparing to provide for my family. And that is the message that I've been sharing with you because that's prevalent in my life right now. And that's great. I've had such great conversations with so many of you, and it's been awesome, but it's very important to me that in that I don't lose the homesteading aspect of this, because you can absolutely pursue preparedness in a non-homesteading way. I had a lot of people comment and say, homesteading is preparedness, and that's true, but preparedness is not necessarily homesteading. So how then do I share preparedness with you while still including the homesteading component? Because I feel very strongly that no matter your circumstances, you can homestead to some degree. When people hear the word homesteading, they often think of gardening, keeping chickens or animals, a milk cow of some kind, having a barn, having land, and that's all great. And yes, you can have all of those things and be a homesteader, but you don't have to have those things to be a homesteader. Currently, I'm homesteading on a 1/4 acre suburban property. And, I say a 1/4 acre, but lots of that is the house, so I think my backyard is probably like 0.15 of an acre, like super small plot of land. And I'm producing a ton of food and canning and cooking from scratch and doing all of those things. But even if you have no land, even if you have just a balcony, you can still homestead. And so I wanted to do a video talking specifically about food, preparedness from a homesteading perspective. I have an ebook, a Homesteading for Beginners ebook that I created. It's free. If you're interested in it, comment ebook down in the comments and I'll send you the link. It's just a little document that I put together, nothing crazy. But I came up with my own definition of homesteading, and I want to read it to you. It says, taking responsibility for my home, my family, and my/our health, with a heavy emphasis on producing or locally sourcing food. And then in this document, I go through and give you some ideas for a place to start if you're wanting to homestead. But what I just read, you can do that anywhere. You can do that under any set of circumstances. So when I say that I feel called to prepare, to stock my pantry, I am not meaning go to the store and buy ramen noodles and whatever else junky, shelf-stable, canned soups and things like that. I'm not necessarily saying to do that. And I know that that is kind of hard for some people to hear because that's the easiest thing to do. So if you feel that as well, that urgency to prepare, to stock up, I know that the easiest answer to that is to go to the store and just purchase all the cans and boxes and all the shelf-stable stuff and say, okay, great. But the main purpose behind this channel is that I had a health crisis some years ago, and I pursued my health by homesteading, by making all of the changes that you'll see throughout this channel. And so it's important to me that I don't come to you with this message that I feel called to share, hey, prepare, stock up, without also saying, but don't do that by just going to the store and buying all the ramen noodles. Because yes, in an emergency, you'll be able to feed your family, but you're not thriving and you still have to eat that food. Because the other thing that is really important to me, and I told so many people this in the comments of the first video that has been doing really well, it's gotten a bunch of views. A bunch of people commented and basically said, I don't agree with this because you're hoarding, you're stockpiling, and all of that food's going to go to waste when you don't need it. Okay, well, that's not what I'm encouraging. That's actually the opposite of what I'm encouraging. When I say stock your pantry and be prepared, as I've said now like 5 times in this video, I'm not saying go to the store and hoard and stockpile all the canned foods and boxed foods. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I like to do to both homestead and be prepared at the same time is to stock up on the stuff that I actually use. And so I had a whole list in that first video. That's flour, that's sugar, or honey, that's maple syrup, that is rice and beans and oats and water. We actually use those things. And I have a video that I've already put out kind of showing you how I store those things. So I'll link that down below if you're interested in figuring out, okay, well, I'll buy that stuff, but what do I do with it? Go check that out. But those things actually get used in my house. And so what I'll do is, so let's use the oats for an example. I just bought a 25-pound bag of oats. A 25-pound bag of oats fits in a 5-gallon bucket with the lid. So I'll buy 25 pounds. I like to put things in the freezer first for a couple of days to kill any bugs or eggs that might be in them, because spoiler alert, that's in pretty much all of the dry goods that you buy from anywhere. It's very common. So I'll put it in the freezer first to kill anything, and then I'll put it in the food grade bucket that keeps it secure for mice and pests and bugs and whatnot. And I'll go through it. When I'm about halfway through that bucket of 25 pounds of oats, I'll buy another 25-pound bag of oats, and I'll just keep it in the freezer. Or you can keep a second food grade bucket, and depending on the size of your family, you may need to do that. It's just my husband and I right now, so this works pretty well for us with just the 1 bucket system. But if you have a lot of kids you're feeding, you may need to keep a second bucket. But that way I always have extra. I'm stocked up, but I'm not going to keep more than I'll use in, say, a year. And again, maybe that doesn't work for you. I know some people like to keep 3 years, sometimes even 5 years worth of these things. That's fine. You've got to have the storage for that. And I don't recommend keeping lots of just paper bags of stuff sitting out, because pests can get into it and you may end up having ruin and waste. And I don't have that much room in my one freezer to just keep bags and bags of stuff. So there's a fine line there, a balance that you have to find between just keeping a bunch of stuff and keeping what you're actually realistically going to go through. But the point of me giving you this example is that we rotate through it. It does not just sit. In fact, I'm not encouraging that. As you just heard, I don't want it to just sit. I want you to actively be using it. So stock up on the staples, the things that you use regularly, and rotate through them. Now, I'm just going to be really frank with you, and this may anger some people, but I'm not encouraging you to have ramen noodles be the thing that you're regularly rotating through. And I know that's a very bold thing for me to say, but go back and watch some of my other videos. I'll link them down in the description. I have many videos talking about the health dangers of seed oil and the health dangers of high fructose corn syrup and the dangers of food dyes. These things are very harmful to the body, not at all healthy, and I do not in any way, shape, or form encourage you to consume them. So do you see my dilemma? It's hard for me to share this message with you of being prepared and stocking your pantry without also saying, but don't do it with all of the crap that you can purchase from the grocery store. It's garbage food. Yes, in an emergency, in a apocalyptic situation, is it gonna fill your belly? You betcha. But you know what? You can also have your pantry stored with really healthy, good, nourishing foods, and you're gonna benefit so much more from those, and you can still be secure in an emergency situation. And so I just needed to make that distinction for you right off the get-go. And I know that if you're new to the channel, and this has brought a whole different crop of people to my channel, because preparedness covers a lot of different people, not just homesteaders, because most of my viewers are homesteaders or they're interested in homesteading, right? So they receive that message a lot better because they kind of know that already. But if you stumbled upon this and you've never had anybody tell you that you shouldn't eat your ramen noodles, ouch, that hurts a little bit, right? But it's important to me, again, that I make that clear to you, and I will link some other videos down in the description. If I'm the first person even using the words seed oils and you have no idea what I'm talking about, watch some of the other videos I have down in the description. It's alarming, and once you have your eyes open to it, you can never close them again. Once you realize just how corrupt our food system is, it changes you a little bit. Okay, so there, I'll stop harping on that, but I needed to make that distinction to move into the next parts of this. Also, this video is going to be broken into 2 parts. I'm here at my parents' right now to talk about this stuff, but I actually want to put what we're about to talk about in the second part of this video. So you're going to see it cut to me at my house talking about something different, but this was all filmed in the same day. I'm just going to cut it up a little bit in the editing process. All right, friends, hopefully you can see me okay. I think that the lighting might be a little weird here. Hopefully you can see me. We are back at my house where canning season is in full swing. And I just wanted, this segment of the video is going to be really short. I just wanted to give you a little bit of encouragement here. And the idea to mention this part to you struck me because my neighbor, my next door neighbor, volunteers at a food bank. And anytime they have extra food at the end, the volunteers are able to take it. So she oftentimes will give me just like random stuff. Some of it we eat, some of it we pass on to other people. But she had given me a bag of purple grapes. Unlike any grape I've ever had before. I don't know where they came from. They were very, very, very sweet, and they were a dark purple color. And it was on my list. I keep a list every year of the projects that I really want to do, the canning that I want to accomplish. And I really wanted to can grape jelly this year. My husband really likes grape. I do a lot of jams, like strawberry jam and whatnot, but I had never done jelly, and my husband really wanted grape jelly. So I was like, okay, cool, I'll do it. But I knew that I needed to find grapes, and I had planned on trying to source them locally. Here in New York, we have Naples. Naples has the Grape Festival, so I was thinking maybe we'd go and get grapes there. So it was on my to-do list, but she handed me this bag of grapes, and I was like, oh yeah, we're using these grapes to make the jelly. And so that's what I have here. I canned grape jelly. There's a 3rd jar, but it's in the fridge. We've been eating it. It turned out so good. I was so pleased. And it gave me the idea to mention in this video, because I'd been kind of thinking about this video for about a week now, kind of figuring out what all I wanted to say. And I just wanted to use this as an example that canning can be possible for just about anybody. I know that sometimes there are physical limitations, and there can certainly be time restrictions, but for the most part, I don't want you to count yourself out of being able to can and to stock up in this way if you aren't financially well off, or if you don't have the best access to fresh food and things like that, because you can anything. In fact, I know lots of people, both in real life as well as on the internet, who actually purposely go out of their way to can the scraps. You know, the produce at the end of the season. Cranberries are a great example. People will wait until the end of cranberry season to buy all of the cranberries on sale, and they'll can those for use next year. So there are definitely more affordable ways to go about this, even if you're somebody who gets food from a food bank, like how my neighbor works at a food bank. You can use that food to can. I made grape jelly out of the grapes that they were giving away at the food bank. So you can absolutely can without having the best of the best fresh, organic, straight from the farm produce. It doesn't necessarily have to be like that. You can just about anything here. And then even so, even if you do end up with the fresh, best produce, it's still not that expensive. When you start to get into farm fresh, where the real money comes in is with the meat. You're going to pay a lot of money for really good organic, especially pasture-raised meat. It starts to get really pricey. I think it's worth it, but if you're financially in a place where you can't swing that, that's a different story. But here I have 6 jars of pickles that I canned, and it just so happens that I grew these, the cucumber and the dill, so I canned what I grew, but I know many of you aren't able to garden. You can go to the farmer's market and get cucumbers real cheap. They're not expensive. This is pepper onion relish. I have its own video coming out soon because this is my favorite thing that I can. It just consists of peppers and onions. And you can get those things affordably at the farmer's market too. Cowboy candy, they're just jalapenos. You can get a big bag of them affordable at the farmer's market. So these things are affordable. When you start to get into fruit, that gets a little bit more expensive. I have a lot of local U-Pick places near me, so that brings the cost down a little bit. I got a great deal on strawberries this year. You just have to search these things out. And one thing that I keep saying, and you'll see me say it again in the next part of this video from when I was at my parents' house, if you open yourself up to this, if you start thinking about it and you start brainstorming and if you start praying about it, these opportunities really find you. They come to you. Honestly, they do. And, you know, if it weren't for the fact that I knew that I wanted grape jelly this year, she would have handed me those grapes and I would never have thought anything of it. I would have either eaten them if I thought they were good enough, or I would have given them to somebody, or I would have just given them to the chickens. But I was like, oh, this is perfect because I'm wanting to make grape jelly. I had already had that in my head and it was just given to me, just presented to me, the opportunity. And that is so common. That happens so often. So get that kind of heart posture and get that idea in your head. Start brainstorming. Start reading the canning books or the canning recipes online and start thinking, what do I want on my pantry shelves? What will I eat? And then start looking for ways to accomplish that. Look for sales at your grocery stores. Go to the farmer's market. Make relationships with people who are growing the things that you want to can if you can't grow them yourself. And let me encourage you, if you've got any land at all, throw some seeds in the ground. Please garden if you have the ability to garden. I want to empower everybody to grow some of their own food. So I just wanted to stop in really quick and mention that because it's true. The opportunities really do find you. Okay, so at my house, you would have just heard me talk about how I feel very strongly that you can do this on a budget, kind of no matter your circumstances. And now I'm going to talk about another aspect of that, and that is kind of the bartering system. If you are somebody who has some sort of limitation, be it a physical limitation or perhaps a time restriction because you've got lots of kids, you're working a lot, you know, if there's something that's going to keep you from having hours in the kitchen to do canning, or preservation projects of any kind, there's the bartering option. So what you could do, you could go to Azure Standard and purchase a 50-pound bag of oats or flour, sugar, whatever it is. And you could split that with somebody who is doing the canning. And if you're like, I don't know anybody, I'm sure you do know somebody and you just don't know that they do it. Or maybe there's somebody in your church that you could connect with. Pray about it would be my advice. If this is something that's on your heart and if this advice I'm giving right now is resonating with you, ask God and say, this is something I want to pursue. Can you please put the right people in my life, the right resources in my life? And it'll happen. It's crazy how that kind of stuff comes together once you're aware of it and you're thinking about it. So find somebody who's doing this, somebody who's canning, someone who's dehydrated, somebody who's freeze drying, somebody who's raising chickens, raising beef, whatever it is that eggs has chickens, whatever it is that you're looking for, find somebody who's doing that thing. Connect with them and say, hey, would you be open to some sort of bartering system? And what I started to say with that was, you know, from Azure or, you know, whatever co-ops, Amish stores, whatever you have available to you, purchase large amounts of something and split it with them. Say, hey, if I give you 25 pounds of organic all-purpose flour, would you be willing to give me X, Y, and Z? Whatever it is, jams, jellies, tomato sauces, green beans, corn, you know, whatever it is that you are interested in having on your shelves, whatever hole you're trying to fill in your pantry. Ask, you know, can we barter and trade? So what I'm here doing right now, I'm actually the person with the cans and my mom is the person with the stuff. And so this actually just happened by accident, but it gave me this idea to share with you. This is stuff that I canned in 2022. And that was my very first year that I ever started canning. So when you very first start out canning, sometimes you don't know what you should can. And so you just kind of go with, maybe you've been watching some YouTube channels and you're seeing what everybody else is canning and you're thinking, yeah, I need to can that too. Or maybe you had some produce come to you and you're thinking, okay, well, I'm going to can this. But perhaps it's not what you actually eat. So a great example here, I have 6 jars of canned pears. I am not going to eat these. I haven't eaten them in the 2 years since I canned them. I'm not really even sure why I did it, except that we have local U-picks and pears were one of the items that I could pick for a really great price. And I canned some other things with them that I did consume. I canned this really excellent salted caramel pear butter that I've given as gifts. I've used in cinnamon rolls. Oh, it's just divine. And I'm going to can it again this year. But I had extra pears, and so I canned just sliced pears. I'm not going to eat them. And if you're new here, I don't like fruit pies. I hate hot fruit. It is not for me. And then here I've got 3 jars of canned peaches. Every now and then I would eat some canned peaches, but I'm not going to eat these. And then here I've got some salsas. This is a cucumber salsa. It was a new recipe that I didn't care for, but my dad will eat anything. So I brought it for him. And at first this came about because I was on the phone with my mom and I was like, yeah, I went through and organized my my pantry and I'm going to throw these things away or give them to the chickens or throw them in the compost or something. She was like, no, don't you dare, give them to me. And I was like, are you sure? They're 2 years old. She was like, they're fine, I'm sure. She said, and I'll use the fruits to make pies, and your dad will eat the salsa. And I was like, okay, sure. And then by the end of the conversation, she was like, you know what? There's actually some things in the pantry that I got from Azure that I don't think I'm going to use. Can we trade? And I was like, well, we don't have to trade. I'll just give these to you. She was like, no, why don't you come and look and see if you want any of it? And I was like, okay. And that's how this idea of bartering was born, because this exact thing happened accidentally, but it could happen on purpose if you had the right people in your life. So here I've got buttermilk powder, which is actually really exciting. She gave me a bag of barley, 2 different kinds of pastas. She just gave me an apple jelly just to be nice. That wasn't part of it. She just had extra. And then these 2 things here, I actually want to talk about separately. So there's that. We're going to start talking about this. This point is coming to an end. Perhaps do some bartering. If you're in a place in life where you have it on your heart that you need to stock your pantry, but you genuinely don't have time, or you feel like it's going to be too much of a learning curve to accomplish in the time frame that you're feeling. Because in that first video, I did talk about how I feel like the election is going to mess some things up, and that's coming up here pretty soon. So if you're like, I can't learn how to can and stock my pantry in 2 months, fair. Maybe do this just as an option. Okay, moving on. So she gave me these 2 things, and these are dried, like freeze-dried or dehydrated soup mixes. And I thought, oh, that's so cool. So this one is a split pea soup mix, and this one is a chicken noodle soup mix. These come from Frontier Soups, and the ingredients are pasta, carrot, onion, corn, peas, celery, shallot, scallion, garlic, and spices. Similar. Green, split peas, onion, carrot, celery, leek, parsley, and spices. So no crap. Really great, straightforward, awesome. And then all you would add is chicken broth, water, and chicken if you have it. And I have numerous videos about canning your own chicken broth, freezing your own chicken broth, or worst case scenario, you could just buy the boxes, the cartons of chicken broth at the store. And those are usually shelf stable for a couple of years. This is a great option in terms of food storage. I would recommend this over canned soups. This is going to keep for a very, very long time. Even if this ends up being beyond its best by date, this is going to store for a very long time. The only thing that you really have to concern yourself with is pests, like if mice get into it or something. This is going to store and be fine for a really long time. And then I was looking on Azure because I don't know where she got those, and she couldn't remember where she got them either. So I was like, let me look on Azure and see if they have this. And they do. They have a vegetable soup blend. They have a chili mix, a mushroom soup blend, a quick bean soup, a broccoli soup mix, an alphabet soup mix. And then, of course, they also have the cartons of broth, too. So you could also get them from Azure, but I know that you can also get them at most grocery stores. So that's a great option. If you want shelf-stable, you don't necessarily want to buy the aluminum cans from the store because of BPA and all of that. And you also don't feel like you're in a place to can, because you can soup bases, and that's coming up. We're going to talk about that in its own video. But you can buy dried soup mixes as well, and that's a great option. And there are probably lots of things that you can do that with in a healthier way than purchasing, let's say, Hamburger Helper, for example, which is another one that you often just add hot liquid to, but that's going to be so full of junk, and there are better ways. And I've also commonly seen these sold at like farm stores, Amish stores, and things like that. So that's also an option. So I don't know, I guess I really made this video because I wanted to marry the idea of preparedness and homesteading from a food standpoint. Now, I've had so many people comment on that first video and be like, well, what about electricity, and what about water, and what about feminine hygiene products, and what about paper towels and toilet paper? And yes, of course, all of those things are also important, and I'm working on putting together videos for those. Two things. First of all, I'm talking a lot about the food because the food is very important to me. It's important to me from a health standpoint, but it's also important to me from a preparedness standpoint too, because you can't eat paper towels. Like, yeah, those things would be great, and in many circumstances, they are necessary, but like, you have to eat. So the food is really important to me, and I'm realizing that that's what's on my heart more so than anything else. Like, I feel urgency surrounding this. I feel something surrounding the other things, but not to the same degree. Even the water, like, I'm purchasing gallons of water from the grocery store every time I go, and I'm collecting those, and that's important. I mean, it's super important. I get that. I'm not downplaying the importance of water, but like, even that doesn't have the same place of urgency in my heart right now as this. This is really at the forefront for me right now. And so I'm talking about the food because that's what I'm feeling the most urgent about. The second thing is that I'm sharing this with you as I'm figuring it out myself, which I think is cool, and that's a good thing. And that's really what this channel has always been. I learn something and then I tell you about it. And so the food is at the forefront of my mind right now because it's preserving season. Everything's coming in from the garden. We're in canning season right now. So this is really taking up a lot of my time and my thought process right now. So naturally, I'm going to share more of it with you. But also, it takes money and time to build the infrastructure for true preparedness. So like, I'm working on getting a generator, and I'm going to tell you all about it when I have it. Their minimum, like the one that I'm looking at, is $400. If you've been around here for any amount of time, you know that my husband and I are on a very strict debt freedom, financial freedom, debt payoff journey right now. So it's not easy for me to just throw $400 at a generator. It's taking time and intention and research to make sure we make a good choice. We can't just throw money at that. The other thing, I'm really interested in getting a water purification system. That's expensive, and it takes time and money to save up and do the research and pick the right one. So I'll share these things with you as soon as I get them figured out myself. So, you know, when people comment and say, well, what about this? Yeah, I realize that that is also important, but I am not going to instill a sense of, you have to do this right now because the world is ending and you're not going to be able to get this, and freak out and be scared and spend all your money. We're not here for that. That is not what we're doing. So I'm coming and I'm giving you things in bite-sized pieces, and I'm saying, maybe focus on this right now. Maybe think about this right now, as I am also thinking about that right now. And then when we move on to the next thing, I'll share it to you in a calm and orderly fashion, because we are not panicking, because we serve a God who has all of this well in hand. He knows the outcome of this election. He knows what's going to happen. I'm in Isaiah right now. It was a mess then too. And guess what? God was with them too. And he saw them through all of that mess, just like he'll see us through all of this mess. I'm not worried about it, but I am, from a place of obedience, going to answer the call that I am feeling to prepare and to share. And I'm going to do it in a way that is calm and confident that we serve a God who provides. And so I keep telling myself that with the whole provision thing in terms of the water and the generator, because if it can happen for me where I'll be like, I can't forget about the generator. I've got to get the generator. And then I'll be like, we're not doing that. We're not going to stress. God knows that this is something that's on my mind, the generator and the water, the purification system. And in time, he will provide it in the same way that he has been providing the food. And it'll happen for you the same way. If you are feeling this message, this urgency, this calling on your heart, give it to God and say, okay, I hear you. And I have a heart posture of obedience towards this. But I also need you to partner with me on this, God. And I need you to make a way. And I need you to provide. You know, I had a lot of people comment on that first video and say, well, I'm not going to store up because God provides. Yes, he does. And he is providing right now. And I'm seeing that happen for me right now. And I'm seeing it happen for so many of you. You know, the preparedness for him doesn't start when the emergency starts. Just like with Joseph, you know, he was given that message, hey, this is going to happen. And guess what? I'm sure Joseph felt that pull, that urgency, that quickening of the spirit to be like, oh man, okay, we've got to do this. But I'm sure he was not panic throwing everything into the storehouse. It was orderly and confident because he had been given a message and he was being obedient. So where does that go wrong? It doesn't. It's all good. It's going to be okay. God knows what we need. And as long as we are pursuing it intentionally, he will provide it. Okay? So we're not scared. We're not afraid. We're not nervous. We're not freaking out. We're not panicking. But we are trying to be intentional and we're trying to make good choices together. So I hope that you have felt that through the videos that I've been putting out. They're going to keep coming because I'm on this journey with you. And as I figure this out, I'm going to bring it to you. We're going to talk about it together. If you have any comments about this, or if you have a different perspective, or if this brought up other thoughts that are along these same lines, let's talk about it down in the comments. And again, don't forget to comment ebook if you want to be sent the link to my free ebook. Again, it's just a PDF document that I'll send you. It's not a big deal, but it's cool. It's got some ideas in it. And then also, if you are interested in shopping with Azure Standard, I will have that link in the description. It is an affiliate link. It's been really cool working with Azure. They're such a great company. You can get really awesome products through them. And if you have no idea, if this is the first video of mine you're seeing and you've never heard of Azure Standard, down in the description and all of those videos I'm linking, I'll link one where I introduce Azure Standard and talk about who they are, what they do, what the process is, because it's a little bit different if you've never done anything like that before. So check that out. And I can't wait to see you in my next video. If you're new here, I have a saying that I put at the end of all of my videos, and it's applicable every time, but it's been applicable with this preparedness journey especially, and my saying fits in with my name, Faith and Arrow. The saying is, have faith and keep moving forward. Bye, friends.